I present to you a brief study on beholders. Beholder? I hardly even know her!
Sound production, take 2.
Did you know that nostrils are not present in all species of beholder? Many beholders are mouth breathers. This video is brought to you by Zoo Bestiary, Strange and Unusual, a new monster book by Roll for Combat coming to Pathfinder and D&D. Expanding upon their Zoo Bestiary, this new book contains more than 150 strange and unusual monsters, new rules for monster parts to be used, new magic items, new backgrounds, and more. This is a fairly large Kickstarter, so check out the link in the description below or go to eldamon.com to be notified of when it goes live. Thanks again, Roll for Combat. Hello everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent, and today we're talking about beholders, but specifically Spelljammer beholders. Beholders in space. They don't seem to act entirely the same way as they do in the Forgotten Realms or other settings. Now, lore has always changed over the years, and it's as it does with any new edition or campaign setting, but for 5th edition, beholders don't work together. They're very isolated. They believe themselves to be better than all others, and this includes other beholders, so you rarely see beholders working near or with another. Now, this 5e lore is from Volo's Guide to Monsters, which is still available as a book, but I don't think it's available digitally. At least on like D&D Beyond and things like that. It's been replaced by Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, which doesn't have this information on beholders. Now, in Volo's, it says that beholders create offspring inadvertently through a dream state. When a beholder has a dream-like episode of paranoia that involves other beholders attacking their lair, there is a chance that the dream will come true, and another beholder is basically willed into existence. Now, in this way, beholders are purely magical or psionic in nature. Their existence seems to defy known magical laws. Perhaps beholders dream within the far realm and pull other dormant beholders to the prime material plane, or is this process really something from nothing? Now, 2nd edition took a more biological route with beholders. Each beholder is both male and female, and they can become pregnant, birthing little beholders. These smaller beholders are imbued with a hive-like knowledge. The moment of birth, they know how to speak, they understand their surroundings, and they have a strong survival instinct. They won't receive any mothering from their parents, and it's really up to the beholder to eat and grow on their own. This process is quick. It takes only about 2 years for a beholder to reach adulthood. Now, according to Monstrous Arcana I Tyrant from 2nd edition, beholders originated from a creator goddess they call the Great Mother. The first beholder created by the Great Mother was named Kazamnul, who gave birth to the mortal ancestors of the beholder race and then gathered them all together to share knowledge and learn from the Great Mother. Now, legend says there was some traitors in the group that started a war between the true beholders, quote, and the traitor beholders labeled as aberrations in beholder form. So another story says that the Great Mother is actually this interplanar creature traveling the multiverse and laying eggs throughout. And this would explain why beholders are found throughout the entire planes of existence. Now, I don't want you to forget this because we're going to get back to it later about planar travel specifically. Now, despite the differing legends about the Great Mother, all beholders and beholder kin revere this Great Mother as the creator of the beholder race. Now, legends aside, the reality of it is that the Great Mother is an enormous beholder that drifts almost continuously through the planes of existence, particularly the lower planes. And unlike a typical beholder, this creature is devoid of logic and is ruled simply by chaos and instinct. The Great Mother is enormous. Imagine a planet-like object drifting through wild space, and suddenly that small moon turns and looks at you. The Great Mother devours creatures that she encounters, and is said to have a home somewhere in the abyss, but is rarely there. She is basically a deity, so killing her might not be possible from a current D&D edition standpoint, but there is a stat block for the Great Beholder Mother avatar that you could update, potentially. Now, the Great Mother has on rare occasions granted powerful spells to some of her followers, much like a deity. be they beholder or something else. Now, beholders have several eye stalks with eyeballs at the end of them that tap into different magical powers, giving them their abilities. However, the central eye emits a cone of anti-magic that the beholder can focus and aim. Now, interestingly enough, if the beholder's central anti-magic eye is ever damaged or blinded, the beholder may spend the time to transform into something called a beholder mage. Now, beholders have always had the ability to learn traditional magic, but usually they only do this when they lose their most formidable weapon, their central eye. Now, when they turn to spellcasting, they become something called a beholder mage, and they change their eye stalks into something called spell stalks, each holding one wizard spell that can be cast a certain number of times per day. So let's go back. Remember the interplanar traveling Great Mother? Well, the beholder mages eventually learned planar travel as well, and they soon traveled across the planes of existence, and beholders were seeded throughout the cosmos thanks to their help. Which now brings us to space and Spelljammer. The beholders you find on planets in other campaign settings are just one of 3 distinct types. The planet-bound beholders are really the only ones that can survive for long periods of time in thick atmosphere and strong gravity pulls. They usually live a solitary life there on purpose, occasionally building empires with goblins and kobolds. Now, these groundling beholders can also be found in space. The main difference is that spaceborne beholders band together with other beholders as a survival trait. They become part of something called a nest, and it's because of this banding together that they've been able to develop huge spelljamming ships known as tyrant ships. Sharing knowledge with other beholders, they have learned to genetically breed a variety of different types of beholders for specific purposes. For example, each beholder spelljammer tyrant is powered by a beholder known as an orbis. The orbis is a stunted or immature form of a regular beholder. They have no will of their own, really, and their central eye is blind and milky white, but does contain the anti-magic properties. Now, these creatures are plugged into tyrant spelljamming ships and serve as a living spell battery that propels the beholder ships through wild space. Now, each ship is controlled by a Hive mother, also known as the ultimate tyrant, which is a larger version of a beholder that has eyes but no eye stalks. Now, Hive mothers are not limited to space, and they have been found on planets commanding 5 to 10 other beholders, but such a scary force could prompt nations to join and attack, eliminating a major threat to all of their kingdoms. Plus, from a Hive mother's point of view, space is the place, and they would eventually bring their nest there. Now, the Hive Mother, with their tyrant ships, tend to fight mostly other beholders. The social unit rarely grows beyond a few Hive Mothers, and beholders are paranoid creatures in their nature. Now, in this way, the greatest threat to the beholders are actually beholders, and the creatures have warred with each other since as long as anyone can remember. It is believed that the beholders could take over most crystal spheres, ruling wild space, becoming a greater threat than that of the Neogi if they were more willing to work together. Perhaps it is the great cosmic balance at work that keeps the beholders fighting themselves, allowing other races to live and discover spelljamming magic. Although this was a sort of Spelljammer video, beholders can be found in the Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, Mystara, Planescape, and Ravenloft. They are truly D&D monsters. Now, if you want to read up on beholders, I'll put links to the resources I used for this video in the description, but I think iTyrant from 2nd edition is totally worth buying if you plan on running a beholder-centric game. Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe for more D&D content, and thank you so much to those of you who already are. Thanks again, Roll for Combat, for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out their link in the description below. I'll be back with more Spelljammer content soon, and I'll see you all in the next video.